Zimbabwe just turned 43 years of independence. This is an occasion where we celebrate the sacrifices, the triumphs that were achieved by our forefathers. We commemorate this day on a yearly basis. And as I was celebrating and thinking, I started reflecting about my country. I started reflecting about what kind of Zimbabwe do I want? What actually does this mean for me as an individual to be an independent country? What kind of future do I envisage for future generations of Zimbabwe? How do we and how do I make use of the cultural heritage, the natural skills and abilities that are innately found in us as Zimbabweans? What about the entrepreneurship spirit of Zimbabweans working hard wherever you find them? How do we make use of that? How do we create a future that every child would be able to be inspired and create a vision for a better tomorrow? I was thinking about these difficult questions and I was struggling to find some of the answers, because at times we are so withdrawn from our reality that we actually forget to ask ourselves these important questions. We can make noise on social media without spending time actually to reflect on these questions and say, our forefathers, when they went to war, what made them work so tirelessly to brave the rivers, crossing borders, stepping on crocodiles, so that they could actually achieve a liberated Zimbabwe? I think it is important that we reflect on these bold steps that were taken by those who fought for the country, and actually ask ourselves, what we are today and where we are, is this what they envisaged for us? Many of them made these critical decisions whilst they were teenagers. They sacrificed their life, they sacrificed their education and the potential of never seeing their families ever again, so that they could fight for the freedoms and the rights that we have today. So what kind of Zimbabwe do we want? Exactly what is it that we think Zimbabwe should look like? And what is my contribution towards that? The fact that we need to recognize the role that women have played in our society as a country, and the role that they can play in the future for us to achieve that which we want. Equal opportunities for all, be it education or jobs. If you have a mother, a sister, a daughter, have you asked yourself, in the future, how do you want their destiny to be chosen? Should it be based on the men that they are sleeping with, or should it be based on their own merit? Should it be based on the family that they come from their totem, from their tribe? What future do we envisage for Zimbabwean women? As a young person or as a youth of Zimbabwe, what is it that we should do? What kind of action do we need to take to determine our tomorrow? We are sitting at an eve of an election that shows us a certain horizon in which we might be getting to. An election that might determine whether it's your success or your failure as an individual and together as a country or a generation. For those of us who have lived in these 43 years, what does this mean? What contribution are we making? Are we going to be putting an X on the ballot? Are we expecting to contribute financially, convincing others, creating ideas, sparking conversations? What contribution do you make? Because it's not in one direction. There's many different ways one can contribute. Now, it is critical that we need to rise to the occasion. We need to also have our names written in the books of history. But the question is, what is going to be written in those books of history? Are we going to be written as a generation that disappeared, the unknown generation, the missing generation, where one reflects on what happened in the past and actually realize there's a time of 40 years or 20 years or 10 years that we don't know what happened to the people who lived during that time? As a collective, what are we going to leave behind? Are we going to have the history of only a few benefiting from the natural resources that we have? Or are we going to live a history of a proud Zimbabwe? These are some of the questions I was asking myself that I struggled to answer. Because at times it's easy to hide away from these questions rather than face them. I think it is high time as Zimbabweans, especially the youth, that we take a position and actually be the determinants of our future, however difficult it may be. Happy independence, Zimbabwe.